Let's talk about the dark side of GTA and Toronto condos right now. So these were the most popular investment vehicle by far in the Greater Toronto area. Most of the people I knew that were getting into real estate investing, or younger people that wanted to get into the market buying their first property, these were the easiest to get in with because you had to just put 5% down during the pre-construction phase, and then you had 2 to 3 years to put the full 20% deposit down. And then the perfect outcome would be you would assign it to another party that was going to buy it to live in, or another investor right before closing, so you didn't even have to get a mortgage, or you'd rent it out. And at the time, expenses were a little bit more reasonable. Mortgage rates for the past 10 years were fluctuating between 2.5% to 3.5%, but everything's changed now, and we're seeing the fundamental flaw in these units. So now the harsh reality with these units, whether it's condo townhouses, condo apartment units, is that these are immovable and they're unchangeable. So you don't have full control over these properties because they're usually a part of a condo board. They're attached to multiple other properties, and then there's common areas that you have zero control over. And to top it all off, you have to contribute to the expenses of the common areas, and you're very limited to what changes you can make. So you can't really make any additions or add to the property to help you. Because of this lack of flexibility, people that own these units aren't able to create additional income if they're investors or if they're homeowners that want to reduce their living costs. So you can't add a secondary unit. You can't just create space without permission. You can't add to the exterior of the property. Even if you can make some changes, you have to get permission from condo boards. You have to get sign-offs. There's limitations regarding how you can rent out these properties. So Airbnb, for example, is a popular strategy right now, something that I use in my portfolio. And condo owners, for example, in most condo boards, you're not allowed to do short-term rentals out of the building. You can't change a lot of things, and other people have a say over your property, which I know there's other instances where this happens with properties in general, with like the city and whatnot, but the restrictions on condos are a lot more severe, and they can be problematic in you actually holding on to these properties in times like this. The recent market downturn has revealed this flaw more than ever, because right now, those same interest rates that were floating in the 2s and 3s are somewhere in the 6s and 7s. So people are qualifying at double the rate, if not triple in some cases. And because of all the inflation that's causing these issues, condo owners' expenses are going up. Their maintenance fees are up, utilities are up across the board in Canada. So when you add all these factors in and you have this unchangeable asset, you can only change so much to it, but the expenses outdo the income coming in because rents aren't going to go that much higher. As of right now, a 1-bed in Toronto is renting out for $2,600 in a condo building. And there's not really much more room there because the type of people that are renting those properties out, they're paying a significant portion of their income to get that, right? So you can't really change too much there. Now, unlike single family homes or detached properties that are freehold that don't have any condo boards, you can't make changes to these and add a secondary unit or create extra space to rent out a room, or like I said, do a short-term rental strategy where you can get even more income throughout the year. So you're getting restricted towards what you can actually do with the property in a very tough time where your expenses are rising rapidly. And this is a recipe for disaster, and you'll see why shortly. So over 1/3 of condos in Toronto are owned by investors. I believe it's somewhere around 36% mark. And as the economy is shifting, investors are the first to deleverage. Why? Because they don't have as much of an emotional attachment to their properties, unlike home buyers who handpick certain properties. They wish to live there for the rest of their lives. They raise their kids there. Investors need to deleverage, and usually investments are extra on top of their primary living space. So they'll be the first ones to sell off. Now, because there's so many of these units, we're going to see a lot of them pop up like we are right now. So compared to pre-COVID 2018, 2019, we're seeing a lot more listings coming up in these same June and July months. So we're seeing about 2,000 listings coming up, but the number of sales has remained the same from pre-COVID to now. So even though we're seeing maybe almost double the listings in some cases, we're seeing the same number of sales. So that should tell you something. There's not enough people interested in buying these units for the amount of people that want to get rid of them. Reason for this is because the rising costs of condos are also considered by buyers, because the very reason people are selling, because of the changing economy, those same reasons are affecting buyers too. Their buying power is down already as it is. And when they're seeing some of these maintenance fees going up, or some of these added costs for like parking spots, they're shying away from these. So I experienced this with a condo townhouse listing I had, where a lot of the feedback I was getting was due to a condo fee that was maybe $50 higher than some of the other units in the area, which wasn't that much, but it shows you how conscious people are of the expenses that they're willing to pay on a monthly basis for these properties. What I would recommend, if you're a first-time home buyer or someone that owns one of these condos, maybe you live there or you're an investor, you probably have a good amount of equity if you've owned these for a while. We don't know how much longer the economy is going to stay where it's at. We don't know if we're ever going to go back to those old rates, but I can tell you, like, rental rates, they can only change so much, right? And if we're going to be here for a while, it's going to get scary. So I would recommend deleveraging out of these. And if you need somewhere to put your money, get into assets that have more flexibility and more control. Most cities are allowing you to add secondary or third units to some of these freehold properties, even townhouses that aren't under condos. So freehold townhomes, you can add a secondary unit there, or at least you'll have the ability to create extra space, maybe even in a garage that you can rent out, even if it's just a room. So you have a lot of opportunities at your disposal, especially if you have a good amount of equity. And remember, appreciation and return on investment, for the most part, if you're looking at just the price, across the board, it's the same for condos, detached properties, regardless of the city you're in Ontario. On average, the Toronto Real Estate Board sees 5 to 7% annual appreciation spread out over the last 20, 30 years. So we'll probably continue to see that 5%, maybe not the next couple of years, but you get my point. So pick a better option, because I don't think we're going to see a massive drop in rates for at least another year or two. And I don't even know if it will be massive when it does happen. I would look at properties kind of further away from Toronto that are more affordable. Like, you could pick up a property in Hamilton for the same price you would buy a 2-bed condo in Toronto. You could pick up a property in Hamilton that's detached, that allows you to add a secondary unit, and you'll get a lot more rent than you would from the Toronto property. So you can cover all your expenses and maybe even cash flow a bit. If you're interested in such opportunities, reach out to me. I'll drop my contact info below, as well as a free Hamilton investment guide going over some of the areas and numbers. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me, and I hope you got some value out of the video. I look forward to connecting with you.